I'm going to talk about, introduce the next presentation, and the title is Best Practices to Prevent Medical Identity Theft at No Cost. Before I do that, though, I wanted to talk a little about how we adopt and adapt to new innovations. And this technology that we're going to see today is one of those that I think is a sort of a game changer for the use for the prevention of medical identity theft and medical record numbers. Typically, there's 4 factors that lead to adoption, and that is awareness, interest, evaluation, and drive. Today, the speakers are going to be giving us awareness and interest, and I think it's up to each of us then to do our own evaluation and possibly trial this product in our hospitals, or speak to someone else who has trialed it. I have, as a disclaimer, I have no connection with CrossChx. They are not a vendor, they're not a sponsor of CSOHIMSS. But David reached out to me about a year ago. It was one month post our go live. So we had a brief conversation. I liked the idea of what he had to present, but we were too busy with go live and everything. So it's only been in these last couple of months I've learned more about this product, and I've talked to many members, both within the the information community and also the medical record community, to talk to them about this product and a little bit more background. And I've met with CrossChx once more to learn more, and I'm really excited for them to be here and interested in this product myself. Again, I think it's a game changer for prevention of duplicate medical record numbers and prevention of medical identity theft. So here's the word. Medical identity theft is the fastest growing form of identity theft, accounting for nearly half all identity thefts. Each year, nearly 2 million Americans fall victim to medical identity theft, costing healthcare providers and patients over $40 billion. Frequently, the false entries of a perpetrator of medical identity theft contaminate the victim's medical records, putting them at an increased risk for medical error. In this session, we will discuss how your health system can keep your patients and their medical records safe at no cost to your institution. David Geiger, our first presenter, is the Vice President of Business Development at CrossChx and has over 14 years of healthcare experience. Prior to CrossChx, David co-founded ePay Healthcare and served in leadership roles with startup and Fortune 500 companies, including Pfizer Pharmaceuticals and Black & Decker. Scott Maddox, currently a member of the CSOHIMSS board as communication chair, and soon will be serving us as the Vice President of CSOHIMSS. He has worked in academic IT at Ohio University, along with time at Holzer and Oakland's hospitals. And recently, Scott became the operation manager for physician and reg services at Ohio Health Information Partnership. So I'll let David start the presentation.
Thanks, Ross. Hi, everyone. I have the pleasure of being the first speaker after lunch, and I know it's kind of dark in here, so I'll try my best to not only entertain you, but educate you. I want to start off with a little bit of a story and talk about how CrossChx actually got started. Thank you. CrossChx, actually, kind of a show of hands, how many people here know of Gallup-Police, Ohio? The Holzer Health, oh, good, most of you. That's where the Holzer Health System is. The Holzer Health System is where we got our start. Our founder, Sean Lane, grew up in Ohio. He grew up in Gallup-Police, and after he graduated from high school, he went on and graduated from University of Miami, and then he spent 5 tours in Afghanistan and Iraq as an Air Force intelligence officer. He specialized in biometrics, fingerprint technology, as well as big data. And then after his time in the military, he moved out to the Baltimore, D.C. area, where he launched several startups. One of those startups he sold to the government, and then he launched another startup to service the startup. So, very smart guy. He had this idea, and he was actually approached by the state of Ohio to come up with a way to fight prescription drug abuse. And I'm sure you're all aware that prescription drug abuse is a big problem. Doctor shopping is a big problem, in particular in Southeast Ohio. And Sean's idea was to take that technology that he knew, these biometric fingerprint readers, and place them throughout the hospital system at every registration point, both inpatient and outpatient. And it was a huge success. In the first year, there were over 150,000 encounters, and along the way, we determined that there were some other problems that we were solving besides preventing the doctor shopping and the prescription drug abuse. One of those problems is medical identity theft. Medical identity theft is the fastest growing form of identity theft, and it impacts nearly 2 million Americans each year. And this is a really big deal. And the reason this is a big deal is because it's rather costly. Medical identity theft costs patients, the provider, and the insurance company roughly $41 billion annually. Another reason it's a big deal is it will potentially put you on the front page of the newspaper in a bad way. Here's an article out of the Columbus Dispatch that appeared on the front page of the newspaper. I will not mention the hospital's name. The article reads, Michael Weatherford finally knows the name of the Columbus man charged with stealing his identity and using to receive $345,000 of medical care at some unnamed large Ohio hospital. But the South Carolina man, who has never set foot in Ohio, still has a lot of questions. How did this go on for 5 years? How did he pile up hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt without any questions along the way? So here's an example of medical identity theft where a patient who lives in South Carolina gets a bill in the mail for care that was not his. So it raises a lot of questions, and it impacts your relationship or your hospital's relationship with your patient and potentially damaging to the trust with that patient. In fact, 51% of patients lose trust in their healthcare provider as a result of medical identity. The most common question that I get asked is, will patients use it? Are patients putting their fingerprint down? Are patients fearing Big Brother? And the answer is they are. The patient acceptance rate across all the hospitals we're working with today is over 95%. We have hospitals, one hospital that I can think of up in Worcester, which has a very high Amish population. Their population would not allow them to take photographs, but they will use this system. They have a 99% patient acceptance rate there. And we believe that because of three big reasons. Number one, the problem is big. Patients understand that their medical identity is at risk and they want to protect their medical identity. Number two, the process is seamless. It works with your existing registration process. It will not disrupt your current process. And number three, we do not store the fingerprint. We only store a mathematical representation of that fingerprint for the patient. So we do not have a fingerprint. We're not going to cross-reference the fingerprint with any type of CIA or NSA database. We do not have the fingerprint. So that's key. So how does CrossChx work? Well, it's simple. It plugs into your existing registration process. So when a patient presents today in your hospital, that patient will provide their birth date, first name, last name, many times their social security number. None of that's going to change. Also, we strongly suggest, just like you are today, ask for that form of ID during the first registration so you can see a picture ID of that patient, make sure you're enrolling the right patient. And then at that point, the patient is asked to place their right index finger down on the CrossChx touchpad 5 times to enroll, and then each and every time they come back, they only need to touch the touchpad once to verify their identity. That's it. The setup with this is simple. We deployed this at the Marietta Health System throughout 74 locations. We put out 150 of those optical readers that you see right there in less than a week. And it's a very low IT burden, and we'll have Scott Nash come up here in a minute to talk a little bit more about that. Here's a list of the customers in Ohio. We also have a customer in Indiana, a hospital in Indiana, a major hospital we're working with, a couple in West Virginia, we have a hospital in Pennsylvania, and we're now focusing primarily on the Midwest.